The snow crunched under my boots as I stood beside the freshly dug grave. St. Matthew's Cemetery stretched out in neat rows, headstones poking through the white blanket like broken teeth. The pastor's words drifted over me, something about dust and ashes, but I couldn't focus. 47 years of marriage. And now Samuel was going into that cold ground. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. I ignored it. Lucas squeezed my shoulder, his expensive wool coat brushing against my old navy peacoat. "Mom, you're doing great," he whispered. The phone buzzed again. David shifted on my other side, checking his watch. "Pastor Williams, if we could wrap this up?" "Mom's exhausted, and we have paperwork waiting at the funeral home." I pulled out my iPhone with shaking fingers. The screen showed 2 text messages from an unknown number. "I'm alive. I'm not in the coffin." My breath caught in my throat. The phone slipped from my gloved hands and landed in the snow. Lucas bent down and picked it up, glancing at the screen before handing it back. "Spam, Mom. Happens all the time." His smile was tight. "Let's get you to the car." But I saw the third message as the screen lit up again. "Don't trust the boys." The church fellowship hall smelled like coffee and casseroles. Florence Patterson sat across from me at one of those folding tables, her wrinkled hands wrapped around a styrofoam cup. She'd taught 3rd grade for 30 years and had that teacher's way of looking right through you. "Helen, honey, I know this is hard." She stirred powdered creamer into her coffee. "But you can't let grief make you see things that aren't there." Behind her, volunteers stacked hymnal carts and covered leftover green bean casserole with aluminum foil. A paper banner hung crooked on the wall. "Thanksgiving dinner drive, feeding our community family." Those text messages were real, Florence. Course they were. But that doesn't make them true. She leaned forward. "Listen to me. Family isn't about blood. It's about who stands with you when everything falls apart. Your boys are trying to help." I stared at the coffee rings on the table. Maybe she was right. Maybe grief was playing tricks on my mind. Samuel had always said I had too much imagination for my own good. "The funeral director needs signatures." Lucas appeared beside our table. "Insurance forms, cemetery paperwork. David's handling the financial stuff, but they need your authorization." Florence patted my hand. "See? They're taking care of everything." Our ranch house on Maple Street looked smaller somehow, like it had shrunk without Samuel's presence filling it. I walked through rooms that suddenly felt foreign. The living room with its beige sectional and the wedding photos on the mantel. The kitchen where Samuel's navy mug still hung on its peg hook beside the coffee maker. Lucas followed me into the mudroom that connected to Samuel's workshop. Costco paper towel packs were stacked to the ceiling, and his work boots sat exactly where he'd left them. "Mom, this place is too big for you now." Lucas straightened his tie. "David found a nice assisted living place in Westfield. Closer to us, better medical care." I touched the shadow box holding Samuel's folded flag. "This is our home. Was your home. Dad's gone." His voice softened. "Look, we've been talking. David thinks we should streamline your benefits, consolidate the bank accounts, make everything easier to manage." Through the window, I could see Samuel's workshop. He'd converted half the garage into his repair business, fixing lawnmowers and small engines for the neighborhood. The red metal toolbox still sat on his workbench. "I'm not ready to make those decisions." "That's exactly why we need to help you." Lucas pulled out his phone. "I've got the realtor coming Thursday to give us an estimate." The Riverside Police Department occupied a squat brick building next to the post office. Officer Janet Mills, a sturdy woman with graying hair, sat behind bulletproof glass reviewing a computer screen. "Mrs. Brewster, I'm not finding any record of a 911 call from your address on October 15th. She squinted at the monitor. "No ambulance dispatch, no emergency response." My hands trembled as I gripped the counter's edge. "But my son said Samuel collapsed in his workshop. Said there was some kind of explosion, electrical fire." "Ma'am, if there had been an emergency call or fire response, it would be logged here." She pointed at timestamps scrolling down the screen. "Body cam footage, dispatch audio, everything gets recorded." "Then how did he end up in the hospital?" Officer Mills softened her voice. "Sometimes family members drive patients directly to the ER, faster than waiting for an ambulance. But if you're questioning the circumstances of your husband's death, you might want to request records from the county coroner's office." I left the station with a yellow sticky note containing the coroner's phone number. The parking lot felt too bright, the autumn sun harsh against my eyes. Samuel had always said if something seemed wrong, it probably was. Lucas and David arrived at my kitchen table with a box of Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks cups, their usual peace offering. The morning light slanted through my lace curtains, making everything look normal. Safe! Mom, we brought some paperwork. David set down a Target bag with official-looking folders inside. Just basic stuff. Power of attorney, healthcare directives. I stared at the chocolate-glazed donut Lucas placed in front of me. I don't understand why this can't wait. Because Dad handled all the financial stuff, and now you're vulnerable. Lucas opened a glossy brochure. Look at this place. Sunset Manor. They have bingo nights, a beauty salon. You'd make friends. David pulled out his phone. I scheduled you an appointment with Dr. Peterson. Just a wellness check. Make sure you're handling the stress okay. Something cold settled in my stomach. I've been going to Dr. Martinez for 15 years. Dr. Peterson specializes in senior care. He's very understanding about the transition process. David's smile felt rehearsed. Mom, we're worried about you living alone. The isolation, the big decisions. It's not fair to put all that pressure on yourself. The Target bag sat heavy beside my bowl of red delicious apples. Inside those folders were papers that would change everything. Once I signed them, my boys would have control. I need time to think. Of course. But don't think too long, okay? Samuel's red Craftsman toolbox had always been off limits. A man's tools are personal, he used to say. But now I needed answers more than I needed to respect his boundaries. The garage smelled like motor oil and sawdust. Sunlight streamed through the dusty windows, illuminating his workbench, where a half-finished clock repair still waited. I lifted the heavy lid of his toolbox. Wrenches and screwdrivers filled the top tray, everything organized with the precision of a Navy man. But underneath, tucked beside a box of sandpaper, was a folded piece of paper. Boys pushing insurance increase. Don't sign anything without Martin. Helen, if you're reading this, something's wrong. My heart hammered against my ribs. I photographed the note with my iPhone, then slipped the original into a Ziploc bag. Samuel's handwriting was unmistakable, those careful block letters he'd learned in the service. Martin Lowell, the private investigator, who sometimes had coffee at Miller's Diner. Samuel had mentioned him a few times, said he was a good man who'd lost his newspaper job. I locked the toolbox and headed for my car. For the first time since the funeral, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Miller's Diner sat on Route 9 like a time capsule from 1955, all chrome and red vinyl. Martin Lowell occupied the corner booth, a thin man with gray stubble and tired eyes. He nursed black coffee and watched the door like he expected trouble. Mrs. Brewster. He stood when I approached. I've been waiting for you to call. I slid into the booth across from him. Samuel left me a note, said I should talk to you if something happened. Something did happen. Your husband hired me 6 weeks ago. Martin pulled out a small digital recorder. Said his sons were pressuring him to increase his life insurance. Wanted me to do some background checking. The waitress, a woman with bottle red hair and orthopedic shoes, refilled our coffee cups. Outside the window, a Ford pickup with a snowplow attachment rumbled past, reminding me that winter was coming whether I was ready or not. What did you find? Martin pressed play on the recorder. 2 male voices, muffled but distinct. The old man's suspicious. Keeps asking questions about the policy increase. Just stick to the plan. A little in his coffee every morning. Sweet taste he'll never notice. I gripped my coffee cup so hard my knuckles went white. That's Lucas and David. Your husband thought so too. The next 3 days blurred together in a haze of investigation. Martin had connections everywhere, and Samuel had been thorough in his suspicions. We spread papers across my kitchen table, like pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. First stop, Riverside Community Bank. The teller, a young woman with purple highlights, recognized Lucas from the photographs I showed her. Oh yes, he's been in several times. Large cash withdrawals from his mother's account. Said it was for medical expenses. The bank statements showed $15,000 withdrawn in the month before Samuel's death. I'd never authorized those transactions. Next, the Walmart receipt Martin found in Samuel's wallet. October 10th, 11:47 p.m. Peak antifreeze, 2 gallons. Ethylene glycol, the kind that tastes sweet and causes kidney failure. The security footage from Samuel's workshop told the rest of the story. Lucas entering at 11:15 p.m. on October 14th, carrying a small container. Samuel collapsed the next morning after his coffee at Miller's Diner. The ER records show metabolic acidosis, Martin said, spreading out the medical charts. Classic antifreeze poisoning. But by the time the symptoms showed up, it was too late. I stared at the evidence that proved my sons had murdered their father. The boys I'd raised, fed, loved unconditionally. The ones who were now trying to control my life. Martin's digital recorder sat between us on the diner table like a loaded gun. He'd enhanced the audio, cleaned up the background noise. Now the voices were crystal clear. Dad drinks his coffee the same time every morning. Miller's Diner, 7 a.m. sharp. How much? Just a capful in the sugar dispenser at his regular table. The stuff tastes sweet, mimics natural heart failure. Perfect for an old guy with high blood pressure. What about the life insurance? Double indemnity if it looks like an accident. Plus mom's benefits, the house, his pension. We're talking close to 800,000. And if she gets suspicious? That's what the nursing home is for. Power of attorney, declare her incompetent. Who's going to believe a confused old lady? The recording clicked off. I sat in the silence, feeling something break apart inside my chest. Not my heart. That had shattered at the funeral. This was deeper. The foundation of everything I'd believed about family, about love, about the boys I'd raised. I pulled off my wedding ring, then slipped it back on. Samuel was gone, but his fight wasn't over. We take this to the district attorney. The pink notice arrived by certified mail on a Tuesday morning. Petition for guardianship, county probate court. Lucas and David had filed legal papers claiming I was mentally incompetent and needed supervised care. Attached was a letter from Dr. Peterson, a man I'd never met, stating that I showed signs of early-stage dementia and posed a danger to myself. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. My phone rang. Lucas sounded concerned, loving. "Mom, we had to take action. You've been making wild accusations, claiming Dad was murdered. Dr. Peterson says these paranoid thoughts are common in elderly grief. I never saw Dr. Peterson. You don't remember? That's exactly what we're worried about. The memory gaps, the confusion. We love you, Mom, but you need professional care." After he hung up, I found a business card tucked under my front door windshield wiper. Janet Morrison, Adult Protective Services. Please call regarding a wellness check. They were closing in from every angle, using the system against me. If I lost the guardianship hearing, I'd lose everything: my freedom, my voice, my ability to seek justice for Samuel. I called Martin. "We're running out of time." The social worker arrived unannounced on Thursday evening. Janet Morrison was younger than I expected. With kind eyes and a clipboard full of questions, she sat in my living room, taking notes while I tried to appear normal. "Your sons are concerned about your safety, Mrs. Brewster." They mentioned some concerning behaviors, such as paranoid thoughts about your husband's death, refusing medical care, difficulty managing your finances. She glanced around the room. "This is a large house for someone your age." I offered her coffee, but my hands shook as I poured. Everything felt like a test I was failing. The house that had been my sanctuary now felt like evidence against my competence. After she left, I called Florence. My voice cracked as I explained about the guardianship petition, the accusations, the walls closing in. "Honey, maybe the boys are right. Maybe you do need help." "You too?" "They asked me to keep an eye on you. Said you'd been acting strange since the funeral." I hung up and sat in my dark kitchen. The YMCA senior swim schedule was still magneted to the refrigerator, a reminder of the life I'd planned with Samuel. Now I might never see the outside of a nursing home again. I found Samuel's Bible on his nightstand, leather worn smooth by decades of handling. He'd been reading Psalms the night before he died, his reading glasses still marking Psalm 23. A sealed envelope fell out from between the pages. My name was written on the front in Samuel's careful handwriting. "Helen, if you are reading this, something has happened to me. The boys have been pressuring me about money, insurance, selling the house. I hired Martin Lowell to investigate. There's a safety deposit box at Riverside Bank, key taped under the toolbox. Whatever you do, take everything to the district attorney. Don't let them put you away. Fight! Your loving husband, Samuel." I pressed the letter against my chest and cried for the first time since the funeral. Not the polite tears of a grieving widow, but the raw sobs of a woman who'd lost everything and found the strength to fight back. In the bathroom mirror, I looked at myself honestly. 68 years old, gray hair, lines around my eyes from raising two boys who'd grown up to be killers. But I was Samuel's wife, and Navy wives don't surrender. I pulled out a yellow legal pad and started making lists. Evidence to gather, people to call, steps to take. Tomorrow I'd start fighting for justice. District Attorney Michael Chen was younger than I'd expected, with the intense focus of someone who'd seen too much evil in nice suburban packages. His office overlooked the courthouse square, where early morning joggers circled the gazebo. Mrs. Brewster, these are serious allegations. He reviewed Martin's evidence file. Murder, insurance fraud, attempted elder abuse. If you're right, we're looking at multiple felonies. I sat straight in the leather chair. What do you need to move forward? Search warrants for their homes, electronics, financial records, a court order to exhume your husband's body for toxicology testing. He met my eyes. This won't be easy. They're your sons. They stopped being my sons when they murdered their father. DHN nodded to the detective sitting beside his desk. Detective Rodriguez will coordinate with the county coroner. We'll need to move fast before they realize what's happening. The detective, a compact woman with silver hair, spread out a calendar. We can execute search warrants tomorrow at 6 a.m. Simultaneous hits on both residences. Mrs. Brewster, you'll need to be prepared for media attention once this breaks. I thought of Samuel lying in that cold ground, and my boys sleeping peacefully in their beds. I've been prepared my whole life. The pre-dawn air was sharp with frost as police cars lined up outside Lucas's condo complex. Detective Rodriguez wore a bulletproof vest over her navy jacket, her radio crackling with updates from David's house across town. Search warrant, she announced, when Lucas answered the door in his bathrobe. His face went white as officers streamed past him into the modern apartment. I waited in an unmarked car, watching through tinted windows as evidence techs carried out computers, file boxes, and phones sealed in plastic bags. From the condo's kitchen, they removed a Costco jug of antifreeze, half empty. My phone buzzed with updates from the second team. David's rental house had yielded similar treasures: a laptop with browser history full of antifreeze poisoning symptoms, and how to increase life insurance without medical exam, plus financial records showing the boys had run up massive credit card debts. The county coroner called at 10 a.m. Mrs. Brewster, the preliminary toxicology results are back. High levels of ethylene glycol and calcium oxalate crystals in the tissue samples. Your husband was definitely poisoned. Lucas was arrested on his front porch at 10:23 a.m., the morning sun glinting off the handcuffs as Detective Rodriguez read him his rights. David got the same treatment at his office, led past his real estate colleagues in zip ties and shame. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I sat in the front row every day, watching my son's defense attorneys try to paint them as loving children driven to desperation by financial stress. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Sarah Martinez, methodically destroyed their story with evidence. Bank records showing the insurance increase requests, Walmart receipts time-stamped with their credit cards, the diner's security footage of Lucas tampering with the sugar dispenser, Samuel's enhanced audio recordings, playing his son's voices plotting his death with chilling casualness. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Prosecutor Martinez said in closing, this was not a crime of passion. This was calculated murder for money, committed by two men who saw their elderly parents as nothing more than a financial opportunity. The defense lawyer argued duress, claiming Lucas had gambling debts and David faced foreclosure. These men made terrible choices under impossible pressure, but they are not cold-blooded killers. The jury disagreed. After 6 hours of deliberation, they returned guilty verdicts on all counts: murder in the first degree, insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit elder abuse. Lucas got life without parole. David got 35 years. Standing outside the courthouse, I felt something I hadn't experienced since before Samuel died: peace. 6 months later, I established the Samuel Brewster Foundation, partnering with Adult Protective Services to help families facing financial elder abuse. The house on Maple Street became our headquarters, where volunteers answered phones and connected victims with resources. Florence and I planted a rose garden where Samuel's workshop used to stand. Pink roses, his favorite, blooming in neat rows like the headstones at St. Matthew's Cemetery. Family isn't about blood, I told the new volunteers at our first training session. It's about who stands with you when everything falls apart. It's about love and respect, not obligation and control. My real family gathered around that table every Tuesday, Florence with her teacher's wisdom, Martin with his investigator's instincts, Detective Rodriguez sharing her experience, and a dozen others who understood that sometimes you have to fight the people who should protect you. The text messages had been right. Samuel wasn't in that coffin anymore. His spirit lived on in every family we helped, every predator we stopped, every elderly person who learned they didn't have to face betrayal alone. I kept his Bible on the kitchen table, still open to Psalm 23, reminding myself daily that even walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I would fear no evil. Because now I knew the difference between real family and people who just shared my DNA.